Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wanderers podcast. My name is Jared. I produce audiobooks and run a YouTube channel called Midnight Lab. I'm joined tonight by...
Hello, it's me, Nick, from more commonly known as Retro_Loneliness. I do Twitch streams on Twitch. Obviously, I do live streams, and I co-host this podcast with Jared.
Right on. Yeah, we've got a bit of a loaded schedule here today, and we thought we'd open the episode by talking about something that's especially relevant living near the Los Angeles area. There has been a strike headed by the Writers Guild of America that has been happening for over 100 days now. They've been seeking a deal with the AMPTP and have not gotten anything in return. They're seeking higher pay, better working conditions, and assurance that their jobs won't be replaced in the advent of advanced AI. Now, there have been negotiations throughout this time. There was one that had happened when the two sides formally met on August 18th. But there was an offer given by the AMPTP and then a counter offer by the WGA that was not listened to or heeded. So they must have given them a proposal that maybe offered more pay or something, but didn't necessarily give them everything they asked for in their initial requests. Because of this, everything's gotten bigger, especially since it's been happening for so long. The organization SAG-AFTRA, biggest organization of actors, decided to join the WGA, essentially spelling out solidarity and unity amongst workers in the Hollywood industry. This event, or anything like this, hasn't happened in about 60 years now. So this is a pretty big deal. Pretty much all major movies and shows with a lot of viewers have halted production, and we aren't getting a timestamp on when they might return because this strike just keeps going. Now, in online discourse, at least in my experience, the general consensus seems to be like, maybe these people should just give them what they want already, pay the workers what they need, what they're asking for, so we can all just keep this ball rolling. But despite that, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, like I said, rejected the most recent proposal and continue to hold out. I'm assuming hoping that the striking stops since, the workers aren't being given enough pay while they're striking. What do you think about all this, Nick?
I think it's very significant how, as you mentioned, the strikes have been going on for so long now. And especially how a strike like this hasn't really happened in such a long time as well. One of the most significant things I could say off the top of my head is just how passionate these people are with when it comes to the strikes, especially as of now. What is it, like August 29th, 2023? Like the weather is just like insane in Southern California with like temperatures going up to like 100 degrees plus. And Fahrenheit, of course. It just seems like such a big deal to the point where you're able to do that in that kind of weather. I want to know, like, what are some of the things that have made these actors go on strike besides pay? Or was it just pay?
Well, from what I'm able to find, it looks like it wasn't even just a thing that they came up with when the strike began. It's been an ongoing labor dispute, and this strike is pretty much the culmination of, I think, years of underpay and mistreatment from writers and actors alike. And, when we talk about pay and stuff, or a lot of people that counter this strike and are against it would point things out like extremely famous Hollywood celebrities and how they get paid millions and millions for doing one of their roles. But, that's kind of like not accounting for the vast majority of, first of all, writers that put the actor onto the screen, and second of all, people that don't get to that point, which is the majority of actors. When you climb down from the top of the Hollywood totem pole and like get more realistic, where there's more people, more indie films, more people trying to make a name for themselves, it's pretty clear that everyone on the lower end of the totem pole isn't paid enough.
Wow. Let's see. One of the things that I just saw recently, according to The Intercept, was that the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which is what you mentioned already, the trade association representing the TV and film companies negotiating with the actors and writers unions, announced that a groundbreaking AI proposal that protects actors' digital likenesses for SAG-AFTRA members. And I remember talking about that, like how a lot of these like celebrities would surrender their likenesses in AI, like to AI, so that way even when they're not working with the company, their likenesses could still be used.
I see.
As along that, and I personally would definitely like strike about that because I wouldn't want my likeness to be a property of a company,
Yeah, and it definitely looks like that's what they're going for here. It states here in this article you showed me that the AMPTP is stating that the proposal would protect their likenesses, but from everything else I'm reading, it looks like it would do the opposite.
According to SAG-AFTRA, they on the Intercept they said, and I quote, "They propose that our background performers should be able to be scanned, get paid for 1 day's pay, and their company should own that scan, their image, and their likeness, and to be able to use it for the rest of eternity in any project they want with no consent and no compensation." Duncan Crabtree, Ireland, chief negotiator for the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA said, unquote, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's pretty gross. And you can even parallel that with like, script writers and chat GPT. Because, a scanned face, kind of just replicating what the actor already does. It's kind of in tandem with an AI chatbot replicating a good script with patterns it already knows from people that already wrote it. Essentially, it's like a bunch of people, bunch of work that's been done in the past, hundreds of years in entertainment leading up to this point. It looks like it has the potential to be nullified and just be completely corporate operated. At least that's why I really want them to win this strike, the actors and writers.
I think that AI stuff is like total bullshit, dude. Like I don't know, like people owning my digital me, like forever, and they can use it however they want. I think it's kind of terrible, especially because they're, of course, as mentioned, they're not getting paid for this. Like they're only getting paid for like 1 day of doing that. They're not needed ever again. So essentially, putting them out of a job entirely. At least
Yeah.
with let's just say if it was like Paramount Studios or Universal Studios, I don't know, man. Because then I would imagine if that likeness becomes their property, then then if that person were to go to a different production team and use their likeness, they couldn't because their likeness is already trademarked by a different company. So I feel like that would make them be like black. It's like softcore being blacklisted.
From any other company, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely a good point. I mean, it's a little horrifying to think about because that definitely seems to be what they want here. And then you can get even into more moral quandaries from this, other than just like using it for movies and stuff. Like what happens when the real actor passes away, but you still have their scan and can still make them talk and stuff. Like who becomes responsible for that after that person's passing? Ideally, no one would, but in this current scenario, that wouldn't be the case if they go through with this AI job thing.
Yeah, that's something that sounds like I don't know. That's not cool, man. And I just hope that they finally get some headway going because due to the strike, a ton of movies have been delayed. I know like all of the stuff that like Marvel's trying to put out like has been delayed.
It's true.
I believe I don't know if it's because of the strikes, but Dune has been delayed as well. Then Dune Part 2 has been delayed recently. I don't know if like any of the DC stuff has been delayed either, but they just like the theaters nowadays have just been like re-releasing older movies. I guess from the lack
Yeah.
of newer movies. I mean that's to be expected, I guess.
Yeah, streaming shows too. Pretty much everything is being affected. So everyone would like this to go away, but more than that, we'd like them to be paid fairly. I believe Bob Iger, Disney CEO, said it was not realistic to pay actors more. Finding it, and according to this article from the Intercept, 87% of actors earn less than 26K a year. But keep in mind, they're about to spend 900K on this AI job listing. It's pretty hypocritical when you can see the numbers in the box office and you can see what the CEOs are paid. You can
Yeah,
see how easily that wealth could be distributed.
of course. Let's just say like Wally. Let's just say Wally, right? Or no, what's a live action movie? Like Homeward Bound. Let's just use that one. That's the top of my head, right? Like if they were to use Homeward Bound for like AI stuff, they would probably never need to use like those actors that revolved around like those animals again. Yeah, that would
And
suck.
yeah, that sucks. And we've talked about like how that affects the people in the creation process, but like as a viewer too, it just immediately becomes less genuine.
Yeah. Also, let's just say like the movie makes like $1 billion, right? How much like I feel like the percentage of how much money the company pockets versus how much it allocates to the people that work within like Homeward Bound as an example again. I
Yeah,
feel like it's like very. I feel like most of the money is just like goes towards the company, like Disney and its shareholders, rather than the production team. Although you would think that if you were to compensate these people fairly, they'd probably put out like better stuff.
exactly. Which is clearly they don't care about that aspect because they're willing to go forward with the AI thing. And yeah, AI's been pretty crazy as of late, but it's still not perfect.
Yeah, Uncanny Valley
Like
stuff.
Pretty much, I think anyone like would, yeah, like prefers like a more realistic representation of something, whether it be music or a movie. Right now, over AI, AI can get pretty close, but it's just overall not as enjoyable.
Yeah. I saw recently, I rewatched Tron Legacy, and I feel like that's like Disney's first like real attempt at like de-aging. Because I think it was Jeff Bridges, because he was older. I mean, he's old now, but like he was like a little bit younger then. But he had to like play as his younger self in what is it, like flashback scenes in Tron Legacy, and those
Yeah,
look really really rudimentary. Like you could tell like it was like Matrix Reloaded level CGI. I couldn't tell at the time, but now it's like, after seeing Thanos, it's I've been spoiled. You would just see like that kind of creepy, like uncanny valley stuff moving forward if they were to just accept this kind of deal. Or it would be like Indiana Jones with like in the latest movie where they de-aged like Han Solo, or what's his face, Harrison Ford.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It would be uncanny at first, especially because like that's what we've seen in film throughout the years. I think it was the Chip and Dale movie that came out last year or something that had a bunch of different animation styles. Chip was like CGI and Dale was 2D animated. And they reference, there's a point in the movie where they talk about the uncanny valley period, and it's like an area of the city as well that's just full of like CGI creatures from the late 90s, early 2000s in that uncanny period. Because there's like, when it comes to new art, there's always like a transition for us trying to get it right. So if it comes to AI, that would probably be the most uncanny transition period we've ever seen in film, and we probably wouldn't want to be there for completion.
Very true, very true.
But yeah, that's about all I have to say on the strike. Still ongoing, August 29th, happening today. And like you were saying earlier, it was a hot one today. Those strikers were out there in 100-degree weather for sure.
I think moving forward from the strike to more lighter news, we have Starfield on the brink of release, which is currently one of the industry's most talked about games. Now owned by Xbox slash Microsoft, Bethesda is putting out this new title, releasing early in 2 days. Correct? Am I right, Jared?
Yeah, September 1st.
Yeah.
I guess if you own the early access version, which I think you get if you pre-order.
Oh, it comes out like August 31st. Huh. Or
Look at that.
yeah, or what? Yeah. So it comes out. This game is as ambitious as it gets, coming from a studio that has a history of making really like dog shit games. Not as in terms of like the quality or the lore or like the concepts, but rather like Fallout 4 when it came out had a very simplistic story. It was very mid-peck, mediocre in terms of what came before it, which was Fallout New Vegas. Although developed by Obsidian, it's still technically a Bethesda game. You have Fallout 1 and 2, which was developed by Bethesda, which were all great. But with Starfield, they're completely making this a brand new IP of theirs, releasing on PC and Xbox. Highly doubt it's coming to PlayStation, as it's been told, like kind of foretold that it's going to be an exclusive to those two platforms. There's a lot of like speculation as to like what the game is, how the game is going to be when on release. Like what kind of freedom do you have within the game? Other extra stuff as well. Like what are you looking forward to? What questions do you have towards the game? What do you think about Starfield?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty, like, if you listen to discourse surrounding pretty much any Bethesda game, online or like on YouTube or something, it's pretty commonly accepted to like just state Bethesda had a tendency to let the community fix their games for them.
Yeah, with mods.
Yeah, naturally, the top mods on nexusmods.com are Bethesda titles. On one hand, that kind of speaks to their malleability, and that's a good thing that players are able to interact with the game like that. But on the other hand, it's led to them kind of having a track record of having really buggy and unfinished releases. That being said, it's been a long time since they've even had a release, and even then it's been longer since they've had an original IP release. So me personally, and then especially with how hard they've been going on promotions again, like they haven't really promoted like this since like Fallout 4 came out. I'd imagine they want it to go well, so I would just hope this is as polished as it can be on release. I feel like there's gonna be no doubt some like game breaking bugs, but I feel like it's gonna be stable enough for someone to beat it and like stable enough for the average player to like not encounter those game breaking bugs. It'll just be like something that happens if you do something in a specific order or like move in a strange direction, maybe hit a wall the wrong way or something like that. I'm just saying I think they're gonna have a good release.
That's very hopeful thinking. What on first, like when you first looked at the game, especially when you saw that like really in depth, like almost hour long like presentation with when it's just Starfield. At a first glance, what games do you feel like this was inspired from or inspired by?
No Man's Sky. Without a doubt. I think that's the immediate comparison most people make when they see like gameplay from this, like especially with the third person gazing up into the sky as you walk on into an uncharted planet, and then their generation system for having all sorts of different unique planets. But the aim seems more in line with like oddly enough, it feels like it'll be more explorative than No Man's Sky, because No Man's Sky seemed a lot more focused on the size of the playable map of the universe and like less concerned with your experiences on each individual planet. Whereas this one naturally isn't going to be as big as an entire several galaxies like No Man's Sky was saying it was. It's going to be still a huge number of planets. It looks like over 1,000. But hopefully planets with more substance to them. And then since it's an RPG, it looks like that's what they're going for.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I some of the most notable things I saw were how just like when you first play like Fallout games, you have like a tree. No, actually, it's more like New Vegas. Because what New Vegas did was you would choose your perks, like your special. So like you got 10 points, like additional, and you would make your character like more perception rather than strength, agility. So you had like strength, perception, and then you have endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, luck, and then when you would fill that out, then the guy from the intro of New Vegas would take you down to do like a Rorschach test, and then from that Rorschach test, you'd get perks based off your your choices. So it looks like you're gonna have that same deal, but rather the perks are gonna be like more. They're gonna impact the world more. Like for example, one of the said perks was that you'd have this annoying dickhead like following you around, which I believe is an Oblivion reference.
Forget the adjective, but it's like an obsessed fan.
Yeah. And then there's the one where you could have like a family, like you just have a mom and dad hang out with or like come back to. And then others include because you're part of a cult and in some regions you're able to pass just willy-nilly because you know like their secret password or some bullshit. Like amongst others. I thought those were cool. What are some things you find cool about the game? I guess like some mechanics.
Some of the things you mentioned kind of like are in the same vein of New Vegas, which ironically not developed by Bethesda but produced by them. And some of the things that were present there that were not in their other Fallout games seem to be present here. Like you said, I don't know if that Rorschach test thing is in character creation, but if it is, like that's straight out of New Vegas, which is a good thing in my opinion. And then things like traits. I'm not sure if they're called traits or skills, but the point is you get a positive benefit and a negative detriment, which is something that I think is sorely needed in an RPG because, you know, something like when they made Skyrim, you pretty much had no limitations on what you were able to do and take as long as you put levels into those perks. But in something like New Vegas, or in this case Starfield, there is a direct negative consequence to picking a perk, but you also get a benefit from it. And it feels more real in that sense because, you know, in real life you aren't good at everything. You know, you're better at some stuff than other things, and you know, sometimes you're actually worse at some things than the average person. So I think having that element there, especially with like a wide sandbox of space to explore, keep things hopefully really interesting. And that's what I hope for the most, is that there's enough substance to keep things engaging, because I think one of the problems with No Man's Sky is how boring it could be.
Yeah, I agree. On release, No Man's Sky was like a total joke. No Man's Sky had like copy paste planets. It felt like Minecraft. You lived out of your ship. You had to refuel your ship constantly. No multiplayer. No vehicles to traverse. Everything was on foot.
Yeah.
It sucked. And then what this game is doing, it's explicitly single player, but the way you would handle your ship is actually way different. You could customize depending on like what you want to do. So as hypothetically, you could build your ship to be tailored around your character being a bounty hunter. You could build it so that way you could do cargo trades like smuggling. You could have it where you could be like a pirate and space pirate and just like bomb the shit out of other people. Just because it could be like I don't know if I said already, like mercenary, and like among other things. By doing so, you have like freedom to customize how your ship looks like, how it functions, and you could also hire like additional crew off the spaceports that are, I believe, like the named spaceports that are you would probably frequent to do like side quests and some main quests here and there. I think it's really cool. I haven't seen that kind of customization in a while when it comes to like ships. You could mention. Do you remember that one like crowdsourced like space game where like the ships are like super expensive?
Talking about EVE Online.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, yeah.
I've heard of it. I know it's an MMO, but that probably is the most direct example of depth ship customization.
It's something else, man. I don't want. I just hope the game doesn't fail. I really hope it does well. A lot of my friends are looking forward to it. I mean, everyone is just currently looking forward to it. And there's also like the factions. Do you remember like how the factions were?
I heard there's quite a few of them, and there's some you can encounter on planet that affect how you're treated there, and there's some that just might even intercept you in space.
The two that I'm most well aware of are like there's a Crimson Fleet, there's a UAC, there's those like the dickheads you talked at the very beginning where they're like basically like Star Trek. There's mercenary gangs, religious zealots, and like pirates. So like those would be like the factions you'd have to deal with.
That's good variety.
Yeah, it's really cool. What I'm curious of is how these factions are gonna work within each other. So like let's just say because you're the main character, you're obviously gonna influence through your actions or how you play out missions the politics of these groups. So where you could be like a double spy or whatever it's called, where you could double cross like the UAC for the Crimson Fleet, or you could be like a double agent. There you go, like a double agent for the Crimson Fleet. You're part of the UAC, but you're working against the UAC to be part of the Crimson Fleet. Because you're doing that, you're technically actually helping out the UAC by being a double agent or some shit. Or could you hire mercenaries and have them join up with the UAC? Like, I just want to know, like, how far could you take the factions? Or whereas if it's just gonna end up like New Vegas or Fallout 4, where it's gonna be like, oh, you have to kill each other. That's it. And like one wins. Which would be very, very stupid. And I feel like it'd be very shallow. Because I believe there's so much you could do as just being part of a faction where you don't have to become like the president or like the leader. Because in every Fallout game, you always become the leader.
Yeah, it's pretty lame, but I definitely agree with that sentiment. Hopefully they would avoid that this time, or at the very least treat you like a leader when you are the leader, because that's also the big problem with their previous games. You become the leader, people address you as such, but you can't actually do anything as the leader.
Yeah, it's like you're just like, oh, here you are, Mr. President.
Yeah, it's more like a pat on the back, if anything.
Yeah, and the world continues.
There's enough depth here that not only, like you said, leads to more interesting things other than them just fighting, but also I hope it, like, naturally, as an RPG should, joining one faction should nullify your opportunity to join an opposing one. And that could happen with, like, maybe joining one faction causes 3 others to instantly hate you. Or vice versa, you become allies with 2 factions just by being affiliated with one.
But
I just hope it offers more replayability in that aspect.
Right. What I feel like would be really cool is like, because what I want to do when I get my hands on Starfield, whenever that day comes, is I want to be like a smuggler trader kind of. I kind of want to take my first approach towards the game as an independent, So I wonder, like, how much could I do as an independent before I have to choose a side? I
That is
get,
interesting. Yeah.
because, like, you can't really do that. You're always coerced into picking a team if you want to complete the game. The closest thing to that is like if you were to play New Vegas and instead of going NCR and Legion, you went Mr. House. I just wonder like what's gonna happen, you know? How would you play this game if you had your hands on it?
I would definitely try and do something space piratey, but also try and maintain like a quote unquote good persona. I guess what I'm saying is I would want to play a bad character that doesn't murder people for no reason. You know?
Okay.
And hopefully the game would allow me to do that. Like, I can steal from people without them knowing, or I can like hack into something to gain information if I have like a high intelligence or something. Have the option to spare people if I'm in a compromising position, or have the option to just not engage in combat and somehow find another way to get out.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. And moving, I guess. Any last thoughts on Starfield? I mean, any perceptions? Any guesses? Any bets?
I I bet it'll sell well, regardless of its initial reception.
I wonder how they're gonna. It's like mod CJ from San Andreas into Starfield. That's my only concern. Actually,
Yeah.
how are the mods gonna work? Because it's not like Fallout. Like, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't. This is such a new thing that it's not like a when because if it's expected of every Fallout to be like, okay, you're gonna be modded now. Like we're gonna to the point where like nowadays when I want to go back and play New Vegas or Fallout 4, you kind of want to mod it to the point where it's like a better game than it when it first released as.
Oh yeah,
And
naturally.
and and I remember the year that Fallout 4 came out. It lost Game of the Year to The Witcher 3, and I would like to point out that The Witcher 3, even though there are mods for The Witcher 3, they're not as like game impacting as they are with like Fallout 4. And maybe that speaks for how good the game is like vanilla or how little you could mod The Witcher 3.
I think there's a correlation with that, yeah. Because, you know, in Skyrim and Fallout and stuff, you see people even doing total overhaul mods. It's essentially remaking the entire game just within the confines of the engine. And that could just be a creation engine is easy to work with. It could just be as simple as that. But I think there is some truth to the more entertaining a game is, the less mods it needs. But Starfield looks like, despite how much content it'll probably offer, it still looks pretty ripe for a bunch of mods, just because it looks like there's a lot of aspects to the game. So I can see, like, on day 2, someone releases, like, more character customization options. And, like, day 4, someone releases, like, more ship modifications. And a week later, someone has new locations. It looks like it's ripe for the modding scene, but not to the, like, overhaul level where people are going to be remaking the game.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite a task if they're gonna try to do that with like 1,000 planets or some bullshit.
But modders are relentless.
They are. Now, you know, our 2 cents in. Moving forward, we do have something that we're both very interested in and bringing to your attention, which is the fact that Konami recently confirmed the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, Volume 1. And Volume 1 includes quite a couple games that they're not like they don't go from chronological order, but they have the original Metal Gear, so Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and 3 Snake Eater, and plus bonus content which includes the OG Metal Gears with the top downs, I guess, and like some video and digital soundtrack stuff, which is very cool. I don't know, man. It's been such a while since Konami has put out anything like that's worthwhile. One has to also realize that depending on how loyal you are to the people that created the game, such as like Hideo Kojima, which technically Metal Gear Solid is Kojima's baby. It does like he based like Metal Gear Metal Gear Solid is Kojima. Like that, he orchestrated everything, the artwork. He helped with the soundtrack, especially the writing. Despite numerous delays when it came to games, every game that came out was like masterpiece. It just was great, like back to back. A lot of people had problems with 4 when it came out on the PS3, but it was still overall like a solid game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say, what do you with the Metal Gear Solid collection? What do you think? What do you think is gonna be? What's the deal with that?
It looks pretty hyped to me because these are all high definition versions of the original games. So we're going to be basically seeing them running better and faster than they ever have before, able to run without the limitations of older hardware. Like, I believe the first 2 were even from the PlayStation 1, which, speaking of which, though I owned a PS1, I've never played the first 2 Metal Gear Solid games. So this is, like, perfect for longtime fans or even that have never played some of these games before. They can now not only play them in higher quality, but play them back to back and understand the story a little better.
That's true. According to Eurogamer, Konami said all platforms except for the Switch have a 1080 60 frames per second target. So that would be across the PS5, the PS4, the Xbox Series X and S, and PC. But Nintendo Switch will be running at 720p in 30 frames in handheld mode. But when it's docked, it'll run at 1080p in 30 frames per second.
Able to see it in 1080p across the board then.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They also have plans, it looks like, to do that with the rest of the Metal Gear Solid games. It almost seems unnecessary if they get to 5, but I haven't seen the list for Volume 2 yet.
Yeah.
That being said, yeah, the only ones I've actually played are 3 and 5. So I'm excited to experience everything the series has to offer, and it's cool that we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah. According to Game Rant, there was a MGS Collection Volume 2 leak that currently only has revealed 3 of the 3 games, which is MGS4, Guns of Patriots, which is the one that's been stuck on the PS3 since forever, Peace Walker that came out on the PSP, and the latest iteration, which is technically a prequel to the original Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Yeah, I guess if you were to think about the history of the series, how has like Metal Gear like impacted do you think like the industry or the genre or like in general?
I think it's definitely affected third-person shooters overall, and kind of pioneered the whole. What's the series that does that? Like Splinter Cell. They kind of pioneered the whole like stealth Splinter Cell combat style. Trying to do things as stealthily as you can and not get caught while doing covert espionage. It's something that not a lot of games get right, but Metal Gear Solid does it does it in an over-the-top way, but it's a way everyone likes,
That's true.
When you're in the thick of it, it's pretty intense, and then when it's just doing a cutscene or storytelling, it's always a spectacle. It's never something just ordinary. There's always some weird shit happening in Metal Gear Solid.
That's very true. How do you think the legacy of the game, since like Metal Gear 5, what else has come close to that?
As far as from Konami, that's probably their peak. I can't think of any other series that do third-person espionage like this. I think maybe Hitman, but I haven't played their newer ones that they've been doing since 2016, so I can't speak confidently. But this is a genre of game that isn't done perfectly most of the time, but Metal Gear Solid's about as close you can get to perfect, probably.
It's true. I mean, it's almost like they wrote the book, man. I wonder, what I'm curious of is like with Volume 2, if they're gonna finish MGS5. Because when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, it wasn't finished. They didn't let Kojima finish the game.
It's true.
And then upon release, they kind of ousted Kojima from the company.
Yeah, so, like you were saying earlier, I do wonder about that. I would just assume no, because they would probably have to get Kojima back on board for that, which I don't even think he would want to do after what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm not the guy, so I can't say definitively. But it would also just be stupid of them to try to write it without him. That would be insane if they, tried to fill in all of the plot holes he left themselves. And if they did, it would be very glaring. And it would surprise me if they did that in this, sharpened collection of games. So I theorize it's just going to be, a prettier looking MGS5 as we have it.
Yeah.
We just have to live with that reality.
And with, I do wanted to add that with the collection, there has been like now confirmed news and footage, well, like cinematic footage. Maybe you're aware of this, but they are remaking on a whole new engine like Metal Gear Solid 3. It's called Metal Gear Delta. What's cool about it is how the way they introduce it. I think it was announced over Gamescom, but I guess they're calling it Delta just because it's like they're trying to be different. I'm just wondering how.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that had a little more or different information from the original Snake Eater.
Yeah.
But that looks pretty insane. It'll probably, I mean, on modern graphics, it'll probably look night and day difference from how it looked on release. And yeah, they're giving it a completely different name instead of just saying Snake Eater Remake. Or probably to avoid confusion with the bundle. Let's see, same story and world, but now with cutting edge graphics and 3D audio. That looks pretty cool. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Have to see more information on if they're going to be adding more or not, or just sticking with it. In that case, like, you'd be replaying Snake Eater in the bundle, and then playing it again with this remake, which, that could be weird, but I don't think there was a release date for the remake yet, but the release date for the bundle is next month.
Yeah.
That'll be happening soon.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the remake, it might take another year or so. So maybe it won't be so bad.
Yeah. Good thing there's no video game strike.
I guess that's true.
Well, moving forward from Metal Gear, there's something that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, moving on with continuing upcoming releases. We're just going to touch on the second season of Loki really quick, since that got confirmed recently. I imagine it's also halted because of the writer's strike, whereas, like, upon initial reveal, that wouldn't be the case. But we were just talking about before recording this, like, how fatigued we are of Marvel stuff in general. But I think touching on Loki Season 2 is sort of a good idea because they could potentially flip the script like they did initially with the first season of it. I guess you've watched the first season, right?
I did.
How memorable would you consider it? How much do you remember from it?
I think around the time that Loki Season 1 came out, that's when they were like just churning out like Captain America and like the Winter Soldier or whatever, where like Falcon took over. You had the
That was the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
yeah, that one. And then they had the multiverse Marvel stuff. Like what if like Doctor Strange was like evil, or like they had like Marvel Zombies on there too. I remember
it was like the second phase of them like dishing out a bunch of Disney Plus shows, and Loki was a part of that.
And then there was the first one, which was the one that kind of started it all, which is the Scarlet Witch show, which I don't remember the name of.
WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision.
Yeah, their initial shows, like in that first batch of Disney Plus shows, I think had a lot of interesting concepts. They wouldn't usually be interesting all the way through. Now, as of recently, they've just been uninteresting from the start, in my opinion. I'm just touching on Loki real quick. I think there's opportunity to correct that in the sense that his character is really unique from the others, just physically. Conceptually, obviously, he's the trickster god, Norse mythology, so you can pretty much go anywhere with that. But also the whole premise of the first season, oddly enough, it played out like kind of like a coming-of-age story. But I just felt like he talked about his identity a lot, and how that felt, and how he encompasses a bunch of different forms in a bunch of different, like, multiverses. And yet, despite that, he's always alone because of, like, the role he needs to serve. I thought that was the most interesting aspect of the show. Him trying to sort of figure out who he is because, who is the trickster? Who is the fool? It's usually a very layered character, a very layered representation. And I like how they kind of made him deeper like that. For anyone who may not remember, the whole premise of the show is that Loki from the end of 2011 Avengers gets intercepted by 2019. I think it was Ant-Man or Tony Stark. But the point is, 2019 messed up the 2011 timeline. 2011 Loki steals the Tesseract and gets punished by this previously unknown organization that so conveniently is interfering now. And essentially he needs to face the consequences of disrupting the sacred timeline, or whatever they call it. The premise itself I don't think is great, but I do like Loki's character. What do you think about that? You think the show's good? The character's good? Or just all bleh?
I think the show was cool up until the finale. Spoilers. I'm gonna I'm gonna spoil the ending of Loki season one. If you give a damn, right? So the basically like female Loki is like this perfectly logical explanation as to why this exists. I must kill you now. Goodbye. And then like she leaves, and then basically along with Ant-Man and a bunch of other movies such as like Spider-Verse, they all come. Oh, and then like that's that what is it, the nostalgia porn movie with like the three Spider-Man.
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home. They like all come together to reveal like the multiverse. And I feel like the multiverse is cool, but I feel like I'd rather have time travel as like a gimmick than the multiverse, because when they opened up the multiverse, which is like my critique of all Marvel movies moving forward, is that none of them have like any like real, not it's not death, but like brevity, I guess would be the right word. Like, oh no, they killed Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. in Endgame. But it's technically a multiverse, so there's like a billion of them alive. Who cares?
Yeah, it's true.
And
And
then,
like that can be fun conceptually, but now the audience is like going along with this sort of like deistic spectator that's able to view all of these different timelines and worlds at their own leisure. You know, the audience no longer has any grounded stakes to tie themselves to, or like a single story to stay attached to. It's now just huge encompassment of everything at once.
yeah, nothing matters. Nothing matters. And according to the Marvel website, the synopsis of Loki season 2 states that it picks up in the aftermath of the shocking season finale when Loki finds himself in a battle for the soul of the Time Variance Authority. Along with Mobius, Hunter B-15, and a team of new and returning characters, Loki navigates an ever-expanding and increasingly dangerous multiverse in search of Sylvie. So the female Loki, Judge Renslayer, and Miss Minutes. Apparently, Miss Minutes is a real character, not just a mascot. And the truth of what it means to possess free will and glorious purpose. I do remember that because they actually what Sylvie does is she kills the
King
like
the Conqueror.
yeah, King the Conqueror, but like King the Conqueror as in like, hey man, we're all cool here, bro. Because now there's this really chill homie that you'd like to have over for dinner is now dead, King the Conqueror. Now you have like ultra dictator dickhead King the Conqueror.
I guess how they explained it is Sylvie killed the one Kang that was responsible for keeping all the other Kangs in check. So she just like took the cork off the bottle.
But then, but here's the thing: do you have Ant-Man, the newest Ant-Man, which I with that was like I heard was trash, or
I
like
actually haven't seen that one, but I know Kang is in it.
right? And then like my guess what happens is like Ant-Man defeats Kang somehow.
Probably just like goes into some never before heard of quantum realm. You can just fuck around there.
Yeah, and there's like there's like I've seen snippets where it's like this arena, and there's like the Emperor Kang, Emperor, and then now there's like a billion other Kangs just chilling in the stands.
Yeah, I think he's the new baddie for this like Marvel phase.
But he's not even cool. He's not like Thanos.
Yeah, he doesn't because he's actually like a good representation of the problem overall. He's not like Thanos. He's actually just a representation of a bunch of versions of himself that have the capability of being bad. Whereas, you know, Thanos is one guy with his own motivations that you can understand, may not agree with. You know, he has a goal and you understand his goal. Whereas King seems like a wild card.
Yeah, there's just a lot of plot holes and shit they haven't mentioned, and then you have to realize that because of like like they're gonna add like Fantastic Four eventually. They're gonna add like the X-Men with the new Deadpool movie coming out, which got like indefinitely delayed as well, I believe. I just don't know. Like, how are they gonna patch it all together? There's nothing there for any like maybe we're getting old. Like, we're getting older, you know, we grew up with this shit, or maybe there's some valid stance as to like why like Marvel's just trash. Like, I'm really hoping that DC, like what is it, Warner Brothers is just giving like all the reins to like James Gunn, that they can salvage the DCEU, because it would be really nice to finally have like a solid like DC universe, and hopefully like they don't add multiverse shit, because that shit is annoying. I fucking hated that. It
Yeah,
sucked.
it almost seems unavoidable with just the Flash's character though.
Yeah, the last Marvel movie though that was actually good was Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
That was pretty good.
But I would say it's a Marvel movie with an asterisk, because technically it's a James Gunn movie.
I
That
guess so,
was,
yeah.
it's just like New Vegas. Like it might have been a Marvel movie, but it was made by James Gunn. Like it,
Speaking of which, and the DC stuff, I hear Blue Beetle's doing pretty well.
good, good.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things, and it seems to be doing well.
Yeah, I guess I gotta go watch it because there's nothing else to watch in theaters nowadays. I
One of
mean,
its like I've even heard just on the general news, one of its positive aspects is that it's a grounded origin story. It's not like a big multiversal event.
yeah, very true.
So yeah, it sounds like we just need to turn back the clock to simpler storytelling, I think.
Yeah, sometimes too much of a good thing is a bad thing, as time has always foretold.
Loki season 2. Can't say we're looking forward to it, but I do hope they do something interesting with his character and like how fractured his identity is. Maybe he'll figure out who he is and become like someone that'll save everyone else. Who knows? But last upcoming release on the list here, I've got another game. Quake 2 Remaster.
Yeah,
Wasn't expecting to see this.
me neither. Apparently, let's see, according to GameSpot, they're saying that the executive producer, Mr. Stratton, and game director, Mr. Hugo Martin, announced that the 1997 shooter Quake 2 was ported to modern consoles with updated graphics. So this was like a shadow release. They didn't even announce it, really. Or like they did at like QuakeCon, but like I just didn't even hear about it. Just like how System Shock was like they did a Phantom release. Because the new one is already available on like it's on Steam already.
It's true, and it's been getting good reviews.
There just hasn't been like any like real news about it. But according to GameSpot, it's coming to the Xbox One, Xbone, the PS4 at 60 FPS 1080, with the Series X and S and PS5 playing it up to 4K 120 frames per second. That's pretty
good.
But
Yeah.
PS4 players can play at 4K if you're using a PS4 Pro.
Cool, yeah. So it still looks like the original Quake 2, but obviously upscaled and running, smooth as butter. Not to mention that there's going to be obviously no performance problems running a game with this kind of appearance. But there's also improvements. It's not just a base remaster. It seems that it also comes with a new single-player expansion and cross-play multiplayer, in addition to couch co-op and regular online multiplayer.
That's cool.
So you'd be able to play Quake 2 from any console against any other console, and there's even more single-player content to enjoy.
That's nuts,
bro. They covered all the bases. It just looks like how a remaster should be done.
I used to imagine like 16 dudes chilling on one couch, playing split screen on a single TV.
Yeah, having like a tiny box to see what's going on.
It's a tiny. It's like being accused of like screen peek is just gonna be a whole new thing. But I mean, it's cool that they're releasing it and they're staying faithful to the game. It looks like it's also releasing on the Switch. What?
May as well,
And the game is a free upgrade for existing Quake 2 owners on Steam.
That's awesome.
And with physical versions available via limited run games. Limited run games is pretty cool. That's where I got my collector's edition for Dead Space 2. I mean the Dead Space remake.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like it's not even like a full-priced game. It's $35 as opposed to the traditional 60 and even nowadays 70.
Yeah.
So not only does it have more content, it's cheaper than you would expect a newly released remastered game to be.
Yeah, especially now that it's also running on the PS. They're also. I mean, today in this day and age, it's crazy how they're just still somehow managing to release stuff for the PS4, the PS4 Pro, or the Xbone. But I do want to speak on behalf of the Xbone, Xbox, and talk about like Xbox Live going away. Now, Jared, you probably played Xbox in your like youth before, right?
It did. So the PS3 360 cycle is when I played Xbox pretty much exclusively. Besides that, I've always been PlayStation. So yeah, I'm familiar with Xbox Live.
What do you know about, like, cause like I only played when I during the Xbox 360 PS3 console wars back in NAM or whatever. I used to I played the PS3 simply because during after the '08 crash, we didn't really feel like buying batteries all the time for controllers. The online service was free. A bit jank, and yes, it did get hacked a couple times, but it was free regardless. But on the Xbox 360 side of things, it kind of, besides the battery issue that the battery thing that I had an issue with, you guys didn't have any problems. And what was Xbox Live for you? What was it like?
Well, well, I didn't feel the disappointment of the price tag, but it should be noted that paying for online gaming wasn't really a thing until Microsoft did it with Xbox Live. Now that being said, it was pretty high quality compared to like the variable connection speeds you would get on the free-to-use PlayStation network. Xbox Live would pretty much only allow people with good or higher connection speeds through, so requiring it to be online pretty much guaranteed that everyone playing online had a somewhat decent connection, and that would result in not too many disruptions. I know because it was a peer-to-peer connection, like the Call of Duty match would glitch out whenever that person left the game, but those were honestly like the only times I would experience connection disruptions with Xbox Live.
Oh, you mean like migrating hosts, huh?
Yeah, but not to mention, like, originally it came out like as a kit, like a bundle. You would even get a headset and a year of it in the initial purchase. So it's like encourages you to get online and talk with people in lobbies and stuff, and like enjoy your first year of the online experience. Then it got a little worse, a little more unnecessary over time. I feel like they needed to justify it, so that's why they started the trend of offering like 2 free games to play per month, and that seems to still be going today on the PlayStation Network purchase. I don't really think the Xbox Live as we knew it is going to be missed. However, it gets converted to online currency is probably just going to be some generic online streaming thing, benefits you get for having it, and the detriment if you don't have it, something like that. But people have a lot of good memories with Xbox Live. It was an easy to use interface. It was designed really well. I think they pretty much mastered people navigating the online space and communicating with each other pretty easily. People even loved to buy those little controller keyboards so they could type and send messages really fast to people.
Talk shit more efficiently.
Yeah. That was the time I think I interacted the most with strangers playing games online in open lobbies and stuff.
For real?
During that beginning period of Xbox Live.
That was like around that time, like you either had friends in school or you just knew someone from like Connecticut, like, or some shit like that, right? I thought that was really cool. I thought that was cool because that's when like around that time, that's when like on the PC side of things, you had like TeamSpeak, all these other forms of voice chat before like Skype took off, and then for some reason dropped the ball, and then Zoom took over, and then Discord is like the basic, like, for example, like we're currently recording this podcast. And our previous podcast that me and Jared have hosted on, we've hosted them. We've recorded over Discord calls. But beforehand, there wasn't like really communities, or maybe there was online on PC. In my time growing up during the PS3 360 cycle, the only people I knew online were like those I would like message and add off of, like, if we played a Battlefield 3 match, I would send them a friend request, and I would use my Afterglow Bluetooth earpiece to talk to them, and that's how I made homies. And a bit off topic, right? But like with how much like things have progressed, you now have like subreddits and online Discord servers where you could find other people to play with. I think the age of like clans and like very serious game groups as like a standard is just like non-exist. It's just not there anymore. At least at least it might exist on like in like a microcosm. Overall, it's not there anymore. Like back then, like you had FaZe being like the popular shit on like early day YouTube. I remember. I mean, it's gonna be a shame seeing the Xbox Live branding go away, but I'm pretty sure people that have had those games are still going to retain those games on Xbox Live, if that's what they did. I mean,
That would make sense.
what were the Xbox Live days for you? Meeting people, or like the kind of atmosphere, the games?
There would be a lot of... I guess I would mostly talk in lobbies the most when playing like Search and Destroy. Basically, where you like get a quick leg in or something. But yeah, I played a lot of FPSs during Xbox Live, and I think that's where the most activity was too. But yeah, I don't know if like necessarily like gaming groups don't exist anymore. Definitely feel less organically found. Like you said, it's like a lot more streamlined. Find a certain group of people you want to play with online. If you're using something like a Discord server or a subreddit, you can get there really quickly. But there's gonna be way more people there. There's less like individuality in big communities like that, and not to mention like if you're like on VoIP in an online game or something, that's just like you never know what's gonna happen.
Could
And
you
like in
tell people what a VoIP is?
I don't know what it stands for actually, but in-game voice chat.
Up to my knowledge, it would be like open, like when you're just like chilling and you have like an open mic on at all times.
Yeah, that was way more common back then. And that would lead to pretty much anything happening. Most of the time, it's just some guy talking shit, but you could acquire some unexpected homies like that.
Very true.
Just casually talking in the lobby and stuff. And yeah, there's a lot less of that happening now. There's some games that replicate it, like BattleBit Remastered has a good VoIP system. And like if you go in that game, people are like yelling, crying for their lives as they're waiting to be revived. It's pretty hilarious.
Oh yeah, like I wouldn't call them like MMOs, but like they're like mass multiplayer like shooters, such as like Hell Let Loose, BattleBit, like Verdun.
Yeah, that's where you got to go for good in-game voice chat nowadays.
Yeah, or like I guess like the nowadays. I guess like the PC other side of things, the more mainstream, would be like VR chat, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Xbox Live Gold.
Right. And not only rip Xbox Live Gold, but rip someone's freedom over in Russia. Tell me about that, Jared.
Yes. So the author of the Metro books, which also got adapted into successful video games in the mid to late 2010s, the author himself got convicted by the Russian government for condemning their invasion of Ukraine.
Wow.
Which is, well, first of all, that's pretty ballsy of him to just do that publicly, being Russian, but that's very cool of him to just stand up and do that, speaking up for what's right and everything. But on paper, if you were to ask the Russian government, they would tell you that he was found guilty of deliberately spreading false information about their armed forces.
Right.
This seems to just be a lashing out from the country overall. Like, it's not only happening to this guy, it's just that this happens to be one of the notable names since he's produced a lot of content that we consume over here in the West. And he could be there for up to 15 years, depending on how things shake up.
We're getting this from GameSpot. They're saying that Gulakovsky was criticized Russia for the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine since it began with a Telegram post that read, "The war in Ukraine unleashed by Putin is becoming more terrible and inhuman in every day. And the pretext under which it was started look more and more insignificant and false." Glukovsky was the first major cultural figure to be targeted by the country's new law, which highlights the broader trend of curbing dissenting voices in Russia's current political climate, according to GameSpot. Which I agree. Not to get too political, right? Not to create too much division here at the Wanderers podcast, but it is. I do think it's kind of a shame how although he may or may not be telling the truth, it's a shame that he is unable to share his opinions because Russia is limiting his speech, regardless of not if it's justified or if it is or if it isn't. Glukovsky, as Jared mentioned, did release like books which are titled under they're known as the Metro series, which were then adapted into Metro 2033, later into Metro Last Light, and the last iteration, Metro Exodus. It came out 2019, so about like 4 years ago ish was like the last iteration that was released for the PS4 and PC, and then later was given a PS5 and then the new Xbox update.
Yeah, so it's a pretty popular series he created. It seems like he's sentenced to 8 years in prison. It looks like when he did this, he wasn't actually physically in Russia, and the article isn't clear on if he's been detained or not. So I don't think he could actually not be detained, but obviously he can't step foot in Russia anytime soon. Or maybe he could have even been detained where he's residing right now.
Yeah, so
Um,
could you like for those who don't understand what that means, could you go more in depth in like what it means to be tried in absentia?
it seems to be a response from the Russian government overall because of new laws they implemented. Not only that, when he was tried there, it also, not only the telegram you referenced, they also scrounged something from his Instagram. So, whatever this law in Russia is, it definitely allows people to be tried for sending messages or making social media posts. Just not even, this isn't even, it's not even that bad. It's not even like he's dissing the government. He's dissing the war itself. He does reference Putin. Obviously, it's Putin's fault. So how are you not going to reference him? But it seems like just from that alone, they have grounds to try and convict him for over a decade if they want to. This is obviously horrible. It's anti-freedom, and this is probably just the first case we're hearing about. It probably doesn't even speak for the innumerable ones happening every day that we don't get to see because we're in the Western news network, and they probably don't want the rest of the world knowing about that anyway.
Right. And what does it mean when you're tried in absentia?
Um, I actually don't know.
Let's see, absentia.
It could also just be
Oh, okay, so basically
in absence.
yeah.
So he wasn't there.
So he's not technically arrested or he's not currently serving time.
Well, he is if he steps foot into Russia.
That is true. That only if that happens, or if they like secret police.
I imagine, yeah, he's not planning on that anytime soon. It's a good thing he wasn't actually physically taken somewhere. Obviously, that's still not a good sign for free speech. And this is one of the only two examples I can think big name game devs getting tried or arrested like this. Last I can remember was in 2013. The developers of Arma 3 got arrested in Greece
Oh shit.
because the government, Greece thought they were doing espionage, and they were trying to just get like an accurate representation of the geography. So that immediately came to my mind when I heard about this. So it doesn't happen too often. But if a government arrests game developers, so far the game developers don't seem to be in the wrong.
Very true.
So yeah, best of luck to the author of the Metro series, and hopefully those are dropped so he can go back, to where he was born if he wants to, without facing consequences for it. But besides those general topics, I believe we're moving on to small discussions to finish out the episode this evening. A popular movie that came out recently, and a couple of games.
Sweet.
Barbie.
Yeah,
Did
Barbie was
very
great.
well in the box office.
I really enjoyed it. It did. It did. It was. It sold the same week as Oppenheimer. I thought it was. I've seen Oppenheimer, but Jared hasn't, so I can't really speak too much of the movie, other than the fact that Oppenheimer was just really solid. I mean, another Christopher Nolan banger. If you like buying movies, or if you're like a movie file or Kino, like if you're in that group, like literally me type fellas, you're gonna really enjoy. You're gonna really want to. You probably want to add this to your movie collection for sure. Barbie was great. But speaking on Barbie, which is something Jared could add to, I really, as a big Ryan Gosling, literally me stan, I think Ken really stole the show in the movie. I thought the movie was like, at least the pacing was good to me. I only really cared about like Barbie and Ken and what was going on in Barbie Land. And I think the overarching message when it comes to like what it means to be Barbie, or what it means to be like a person as Barbie. Likewise for Ken, I think they were like just good. I think the movie does a good job in the time we live in currently of showing how women are considered valid, or can be valid, or can be seen as valid by like society when it comes to entering the workforce. I think it does a good like it shows the movie is obviously has like a feminist slant to it. I personally don't like woke shit, but the movie isn't really trying to push anything. It just highlights what, or like it's technically like just like a given. Like if you're like a sane person that doesn't live in a basement, probably understand.
Yeah.
What about you, man? Like where did you see it? Who did you see it with? What did you think of the movie?
I really enjoyed it. I saw it as a group. We all like dressed up and everything. Not really dressed up, more like just wore pink shirts. But it was a good time, and I think that was probably my favorite part of it, is how fun it was, while not losing its focus necessarily. Because, I've seen it before, comedic movies that try to have a message, but ultimately it falls flat on its face because of the, the unseriousness of it all. I think this movie did a really good job of both saying something and also like keeping it fun and engaging the whole time. They had a pretty good balance that I don't really see struck well too often. I liked how goofy it was sometimes, like how heightened, like, there's the Barbie world, which is obviously fake, and then our real world. But even our real world was, slightly exaggerated just to get some points across. But that led to some comedic scenarios. I really like how some stuff would just happen with no explanation. There's a scene while the Kens are fighting on the beach, and then workers from Mattel are trying to put a stop to Barbie's infiltrating the real world, so they infiltrate the fake world, and one of them just gets shot by a gun for no reason, even though the movie established nobody has any weapons in Barbie Land. That guy just gets shot, and it's never explained. I thought it was hilarious how that just happened for no reason. And things like, Ken being obsessed, with horses, thinking it's synonymous with the patriarchy. I think that's like a fun, like, dumb thing, but like also like kind of subtly pointing out, Westerns are typically the most heightened version of a masculine portrayal of a masculine movie. Kind of like they killed two birds with one stone at some point, at several points throughout the movie. But overall, like, more important than anything else is I was not bored.
Very true. How did you feel with the two main actors, Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie?
I think they both did fantastic. I think Ryan Gosling did phenomenal.
Based.
Like, he really put his all into that. And, like, not even that, but, like, his pouting was great. His excitement was great. His musical numbers that he led were great. I think all the musical numbers were pretty good. Obviously, the one with the Kens, I think, was the best one.
Jim is Ken.
Yeah, they all kind of slapped to their own degree. But most certainly, Ryan Gosling was a joy to watch. And I think that's probably because he was given more range to. Like, Barbie at the beginning of the movie, she's just kind of smiling and waving because she's comfortable. And then, she goes through her own experiences. I think she shines when... I think Margot Robbie shines the most in this movie when she's taking her time and is thinking pensively and feeling a little sad. The scene allows her to take her time and really just absorb what she's feeling or what she's not feeling because she's not actually a human, and vice versa. Whereas, Ryan Gosling's character as Ken, his wants are a lot more simple. So he either gets what he wants and he's super stoked about it, or he doesn't get what he wants and he's super bummed. Both scenarios are funny. Overall, just a joy to watch.
What would you give it, like, out of 10? Or 100, or whatever?
On a scale from 1 to 10, probably at least an 8. And, like, I'm a bit of a picky, like, scorer. There's, like, maybe 1 or 2 movies I would give a 10. But I think 8 or 9 is something I would get the Barbie movie. I'd have to watch it again to decide for sure, because I've only seen it once. But another positive aspect about it is I would not mind seeing it again, because I think it had a good runtime.
Yeah, it flew. It really flew when you got into the thick of it. It really just flew by.
Absolutely. And not everything made sense. Not everything was rational. The movie knew that, and it rode with it instead of trying to explain how it works and failing at it and just making everything worse. It was both unserious and serious when it needed to be, and it was fun.
Out of 10, I would give the movie a 9. I think it's a healthy movie for younger audiences to watch, despite the fact that it technically has an adult audience slant. I think the acting was great. I mean, I wouldn't have been as excited as I would be for the movie if it wasn't for my boy, literally me, Ryan Gosling, who he's amazing, and personally an underrated actor when it comes to like the grand scope of the industry. He's not your Robert Downey Jr., he's not Chris Evans, he's not one of your Marvel MCU actors. But every time he's been in a movie, he's always been the best part of it. And I think his talents are shown and are displayed in Barbie, and just how much he's able to, like, you don't really see Ryan Gosling as Gosling, despite him being like the sexy ass man. You see Ken. I think Margot Robbie, I think this is her best role yet. I think she was able to, display vulnerability, strength, be funny when it lands. Like you really feel for the character. She doesn't come off as annoying. She's not like a bitch or anything. She's just solid. Some would say that like Will Ferrell's character could have been doing more. You could say that kind of thing for like Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer with how stacked that cast was too. If you
I
really
guess
wanted
that's
to.
true. I was actually I was pleased with Will Ferrell because I usually think he's too over the top, and I usually think he's not funny and just takes stuff out of the scenes. But I think the role they've cast him in and gave him in this movie, that's like I think that's an ideal Will Ferrell role. Like that is the kind of role he needs to play, like bumbling CEO that also is like has the mind of a child. Like he's perfect for that, and he did that great in the movie. And he wasn't annoying; it was endearing, because like it fit with the role.
I definitely, by the end of the movie, I could say that I definitely do want my own Mojo Dojo Casa house eventually growing up
It's
as I get
true.
older. If only the
Yes.
housing crisis could happen again. But moving away from Barbie with towards something that also starts with the letter B. Terrible segue, but that is Baldur's Gate 3. And after the amnesia, the bunker, with Jared being well aware of both of these seem like both up his alley more than mine. So take it away, Jared.
Yes. Not only that, I've played both of these games. I've yet to beat Baldur's Gate 3. I have beaten the bunker, and there's like a good reason for that. But before that, I'll just kind of touch on how massive Baldur's Gate's 3 launch has been. And for anyone unfamiliar or happening to be, it is a full RPG experience in the vein of Dungeons and Dragons. The developers, Larian Studios, have made other games like this before. They're most well known for their Divinity series, which also functions very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. But Baldur's Gate 3 sort of refined all that, streamlined it, made it super easy to get into. They also created this huge, massive world rich with detail. Needless to say, it's been a pretty massive success. A ton of players have been playing it nonstop since release. It's been over 2 weeks now, and it's still one of the highest player counted games on Steam. In opening weekend alone, players' collective playtime totaled up to 1,225 years. So people have been playing the shit out of this game. I'll say I have about 40 hours on it now, just playing it in couple hour periods consistently, and I've still yet to beat the game. I feel like I have quite a bit more time to go. And not only does this game have an insane amount of content, I'd wager it's probably at least 60 to 100 hours just to beat it. It's also insanely replayable. So, much like Dungeons and Dragons, you have access to about 9 classes. There's more in tabletop, obviously, but it's a virtual game that can only do so much. But with those 9 classes, there's different abilities, skills, spells you can learn. Every character you play can act like a different person. You can be good, bad, or in between. And not to mention, there's plenty of NPCs that you can play as if you want to, that have their own fleshed out backstories that play out over the course of the game. But the point is, there's almost too much content. But in the same way we were talking earlier about like how we're hoping Starfield has certain RPG, mechanics, this game, is a good example to look towards if you're looking for good RPG mechanics. What I mean by that is, you gave an example earlier about joining one of the factions in Starfield, but like hoping you can double cross them later and then almost triple cross them in a way. That's something you can definitely do in Baldur's Gate. Pretty much every conversation has a good person up, like dialogue, a bad person dialogue, a neutral one, a crazy one, and then one where you can just like say nothing and completely don't participate. But the point is, if you think to yourself while playing Baldur's Gate, say like, maybe I want to agree with this person now, but hopefully I can betray them later and like take all their gold or something. That's definitely something you can do, and the game will allow you to do. I can't really think of really any other game that has this much opportunity and this many options. What do you think? Is there a limit to how many options you can have in a game before it becomes overwhelming and you just don't even want to engage with it? Or is that an infinite number? There can never be too many, character choices. There can never be too many NPCs.
I think it depends because I think the like I could say like for example Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, Odyssey, especially like Odyssey. Fuck that game. Like you were just inundated with side quests, like, but they were like all meaningless, but they also kind of mattered if you were like a completionist. And as a person who likes to play side quests before the story to love, because I like to be so leveled up that the main quest is kind of a cakewalk. Assassin's Creed Valhalla gave you just so much to do, but all of it was kind of pointless and meaningless, and they're all fetch quests, blah blah blah. Like the game's like, as a personal opinion of retro underscore loneliness, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey were shit. And apparently, Baldur's Gate 3 was able to handle the way you talk to people way differently and interact with the world, and that could be seen through the reviews and sales numbers. I don't think that having too much choice in a game is a bad thing. I think too much like stupid choices in a game are a bad thing that lead to nothing. They kind of have to have a point. It's cool. It's cool that they influence the story in some ways, but they should also like get to the point in other ways where it's not like you're like it's like, oh, I forgot the name of the character, Arteus, or like Greek fella. I need you to fetch me a pot of water, and that'll be the quest. And it's like you would think that like, okay, cool, like next I'm gonna be invited to like the Assassin's Order, blah blah blah. But it's like, thank you, fuck off. And it's like, okay. And I don't think like and I think Jared could attest that this probably isn't the case.
It isn't. It definitely try. It is a game that definitely plays with your expectations. Quests that seem like fetch quests can turn into something completely different. And, there's things you'll encounter that actually have huge ramifications for later without you realizing it at all. There's this, like, brain NPC character that enters the game at the beginning in the prologue, and you can treat him however you want. You could be nice to this brain, you can become friends with him and allies will fight with you, or you can kill him right away and just not think about it and never see that brain again. But if you keep him alive and ally with him, that brain will show up at the end of Act 2 and help you out. That doesn't happen a lot in games because, game directors usually get scared about that kind of thing. Bethesda was notorious for this, for being afraid that players wouldn't see some content they made. So they kind of, Skyrim's a good example. They didn't want anyone to miss out on any content. As a result, with no consequence, you could pretty much become the leader of every faction with, like, no depth to it. But in Baldur's, you can miss out on opportunities all the time, and the game will not care. It'll keep going. So I think that's always a good thing. Yeah, there's a pretty big lack of uninteresting or boring quests in the game, but you can end up accidentally cutting yourself off from opportunities without realizing it. But overall, it's had a pretty overwhelmingly positive reception. People are memeing the shit out of it. I have a lot of friends that play Dungeons and Dragons. They're all playing this. I even know friends that have never touched Dungeons and Dragons, and they're also playing this. However they figured it out, it worked.
Question: what is your current playthrough like?
I am a level 9. Max level is 12, by the way, which seems low for a game, but in tabletop D&D, max level is 20, and by level 15, your characters are extremely overpowered, like to the point where they can start fighting gods and stuff, so I can kind of see why they kept 12 as the level cap.
Hilarious.
Yeah. But I'm a level 9 warlock with a full party of 4. And I'm half illithid, which in my playthrough means I'm half monster. The whole premise of the game is you're all infected with these monstrous parasites that'll turn you into illithids that can be mind controlled. And you can choose to either give in to this and get stronger powers you can use in combat and dialogue and stuff, or keep your humanity but have a more difficult gameplay experience as a result. But likely your companions will respect you more for not giving in to the monster. But because I'm a warlock, I'm playing my character as kind of power hungry, since I already have a pact with the fiend. So I'm not really minding the extra powers and stuff. But I play neutral, like, I'd call him neutral good or just straight neutral, because I can say some bad things in dialogue, and be mean, but I never actually kill anyone if I don't have to. But everything I just said could be played a slightly different way in this game, which I think is an attribute to its popularity.
What are some of the headlines that have been like coming up from this game?
A big deal that's been in conversation has been save scumming. If you were to type Baldur's Gate 3 save scumming into YouTube, you'll see like an ocean of videos, both unknown and well-known creators talking about it. And that's just because the game offers so many different choices and outcomes. People are save scumming like nobody's business, which, if you aren't familiar with the term, it's just saving your game before doing something risky or before making a big choice, seeing the outcome, and if you don't like the outcome, reloading that previous save as if it never happened. I don't care. There's a lot of discourse about how ethical that is, I guess, like as a player. A lot of, ironically, D&D like fans seem to be thinking save scumming is a bad thing because it like tarnishes the whole point of making a choice and living with the consequences, which is how D&D works. But to me, it's just whatever's most fun for you. And usually it's more fun for people to save scum because, you're getting the outcome you want and you're saving time. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely have been save scumming. Not all the time, but if a character dies or something, obviously I'm going to save scum.
Have you saved scummed already?
Oh, most definitely. Not for like just minor dialogue choices, but for like a character dying from a trap I didn't know was there. Yeah, I would save scum for something like that.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, some of the from looks like according to the Baldur's Gate official account, they've said that you've already mentioned that they played over 1,225 years worth of Baldur's Gate 3.
That was just opening weekend.
And then I think one of the coolest stats, what's that? The dog called Scratch has been petted over 750,000 times. And according to the Baldur's Gate account, cementing his reputation as the goodest boy in all of the realms. Which is
true.
pretty swag.
If you build your character that way, you can speak to animals in this game. And surprisingly, pretty much every animal you see has fully written dialogue.
That's insane.
It's like no other game would even bother, and like no one would have cared if they didn't do that, but they did.
And the most popular class choice is Paladin. And then as blowing it out the water, and then after that it's like Sorcerer and then Warlock. And then, but it's like an even split between half elf and human, and just barely coming in at third place, elf, straight elf.
I was hoping elf would beat half elf and human, but those are pretty close.
Yeah, and then the origin character selection was Gale, who is the most popular played origin character. Which, if you could define what origin character, would be cool. And
origin character is a character you can select and play as, or a custom character is one you make yourself with their own class and attributes and stuff. But if you play as an origin character, that gives you a completely different perspective from just allying that character as a custom character. So, if I were to pick Gale and play as him, I would have an understanding of certain aspects of his story that I wouldn't have if I just met him as an NPC.
So they have an actual background.
Yes, they all do.
That's what's up, man. And what is your favorite origin character?
My favorite origin character right now, I haven't finished out all their stories. They've all gotten way more interesting. My favorite's Gale. Mostly because he's worked really well with my Warlock, power-hungry magic character. He's also, his whole story is he also craves more ability to manipulate, the magical weave that holds all magic together. And he's met with this, he's well acquainted with this known god of magic, and he's, in love with her and is trying to get more power to prove himself and stuff like that. And that's just one guy.
Yeah, and then other stats include that 90. Well, it looks like a lot of people like to be individuals, and which comes to a 93% of all players rolled a custom character, and of those players, they spent 88 years in combined in character creation, with at least nearly 10% of those characters spent at least an hour in character creation alone.
It's because there's so many decisions, there's so many choices. It's hard to figure out which one you actually want, you know?
One of the biggest things that I saw, like release or pop out of the woodwork when it came to this game or its critiques, is how it's kind of elevated it's kind of broken like standard like norms where like developers were on Twitter were complain or X or whatever the fuck it's called now, have been complaining about how the game is too good and too polished and just overall like it's a problem because now that kind of standard is too high to meet towards the regular video game consumer when it comes to other games. How do
It's
you feel about that?
definitely a difficult standard to achieve, but in no way do I think it's irrational or unachievable because, like, this game just has things that people have been wanting in RPGs for years, and not even things people have been wanting, things that used to be in RPGs. Because a lot of older games like Fallout 1, the first two Baldur's Gates, those games were very dialogue heavy, and as a result, had a lot of opportunities in them. And over time, as gaming got more streamlined, there was less and less dialogue and choices, and more ease of access, quick gameplay. Pretty much like just making things easier to understand and digest. Whereas, something like Baldur's Gate, there's more effort required on the player's part to get engaged. There's more reading. There's more, but as a result, it's more immersive, and there's way more opportunities to play how you want to play.
Yeah, and the game has been like overall has like been complete, right? No bugs, none of that bullshit.
There's definitely nothing dramatic like Skyrim, Fallout 4 on release. There have been some problems, but they get patched very quickly. And I think because it's such the high player base, they have an understanding of what the major issues are right away. But no one I know has found anything game breaking. But pretty much everyone I know has found something that's caused them, including myself, encountered something where they needed to reload a save just because something wasn't working properly.
Wow.
But
Yeah,
nothing beyond that.
that's cool. Yeah, I definitely don't. I believe when it comes to how like the quality of the product, I think it's kind of a cop out to say that like that kind of standard is too high to meet
Yeah.
because the industry like norm has been like let's release this game that's buggy as shit, and then we'll just tell our customers that we're built but this is just because we have a roadmap or whatever the fuck, and then we'll fix the game or put like pump out content as like battle pass or something like Fortnite or fucking or more or less like Halo Infinite.
hmm
Um,
Yeah,
it, this game has no microtransactions from what I'm aware, and
correct.
it's just been selling like hotcakes because it's just a good polished game.
Yeah, they did a good job. And these devs, Larian Studios, they're known for their free content updates and polish. Essentially, you can find interviews and stuff with the CEO, and he's a down to earth guy that really likes games and doesn't want to give in to the usual like tropes that people get when money gets involved. He really wants to keep microtransactions out. He wants to keep bullshit out. And with their last game, Divinity 2, they released some mods that the community made. They eventually patched them into the game like 2 years after the game came out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that again. Not to mention they released a Dungeon Master mode for Divinity, which they're no doubt going to do for this game, because it's literally Dungeons and Dragons this time. So they're probably going to create a game mode where one person can create the story and setting, and four players can play in it. and they're probably going to take out the 12 level cap. Those are my predictions, which will offer even way more playtime from the already hundreds of hours.
True.
Kind of insane, but yeah, people are going to be playing Baldur's Gate 3 for years to come.
And
And that's
then,
about all I have to say on it.
of course, and then as we wrap up this episode, you were really excited on a previous episode when it came to Amnesia, like the last Amnesia, the game, which is called Amnesia the Bunker.
It's true.
And to just before you take it away, um, since I know this is like your shit, right? I know it's set in like World War I, or like that's what the setting looks like.
It is.
And I know the bunker itself is from, like, I forgot the battle that takes place. It's like Fort DeVoe. It's almost like the map is very similar to that of the Battlefield 1 multiplayer map called Fort DeVoe.
I know, I'm actually not sure. I'm fairly certain that the game takes place in France, but you are on the French side in the war, playing as a soldier. Just to cover the game really quick, because I was hype about it. It's a very in-depth horror experience. Can be completed in probably about 6 or less hours, so it's not the lengthiest thing, and it's not the most narrative-driven thing. But what's really unique about this game is its open-ended design and monster AI. So if you or anyone has played Alien Isolation, the game functions a lot like that. There's only one major enemy. It adapts and reacts to your actions in the game. In the case of the bunker, your only objective is to escape the bunker, and you're pretty much given what you told what you need to do from the get-go. You need to find some dynamite, and you need to blow up the exit in order to escape. And there's only about, I want to say, like 6 different major rooms in the bunker, with like, they split off obviously into smaller rooms. But the point is, the map isn't huge. It's like a realistically sized army bunker. There's barracks, there's a dining hall, there's a prison, there's officers' quarters, and that's about it. I think it was a really effective experience because of how the game experimented with sound. So essentially, the monster can hear nearly everything you do, and its only caveats, your only defense against it, is that it doesn't like light. You're given access to some weapons throughout the game, which is a first for the series, that do not kill the monster, only temporarily stun it, similar to Alien Isolation. Overall, it was really tense. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. The monster sound effects are very effective. The way it moves is very effective. It kind of slinks out of small holes throughout the map. It can go move in the walls and above you, and it can like quickly exit them from like this tiny space into this huge like crawling beast that takes up the whole hallway. These are pretty much main obstacle to beating the game, so you become very familiar with how it works. Not to mention, you need to keep a generator running, and the second the generator runs out, the whole place is just covered in darkness, and the monster will now be listening for your flashlight cranking. Your only light source besides the generator, which requires you to find fuel, is a portable handheld crank flashlight that is very loud when you crank it up. You can see how that would naturally create tension. But that's just me covering the game overall. I would recommend it, most definitely, especially if you like things like Alien Isolation. But it seems recently, in an interview with the frictional creative director, Thomas Grip, IGN discovered that the developers of the Bunker Frictional games seem to be cutting back on horror in general. Their next project probably isn't going to be a direct horror title, and they're going to lean into more storytelling and such. Now, that's a little bit of a bummer to me, because I've always liked their horror games. I can understand it, though. And I do think The Bunker is pretty peak monster invasion, setting. They could keep improving on it, but they might come back to it in the future. What do you think? How would you react if you learned there was a new game coming out from the Dead Space devs, but you found out they're just deviating away from horror, doing something?
I guess I'd be kind of bummed out because what as this studio is they're known for creating this series that you really like. You would like it to continue and evolve and keep going as you get older yourself, but I wouldn't want. I would just be like a shame about how I'd be expecting something new from the same developers that I've been following for so long, and for them to be we're getting kind of tired of this shit. We're making something else. Because you're either jaded from hearing that news, and you're like, oh fuck, well I guess I can't do this anymore, and you move on to other series, or you stick around and see what these developers are making next. How you would expect the Bethesda people to be like, oh, give me like the latest Elder Scrolls or Skyrim, like give me Skyrim 2 or give me Fallout 4 2 or Fallout 5, but instead they made Starfield, and so or they're so it would be the same thing.
I'm disappointed that they're stepping back from horror. According to their own statement, it's never really been about horror for them. It's been about delivering an emotional experience, and horror is a really easy way to get you emotional. So
Yeah.
it seems like they're also trying to challenge themselves. So I guess all I have to say on it is I wish them luck, and they're probably going to succeed at it, because Soma is a game they released, I think, like 2014, that had very solid writing, but kind of sucked as a horror game. It was more of a horrific concept than like a horrific game. So I can definitely understand where they're going with this. It's just kind of unfortunate timing, because it seems like they found their legs with scary stuff again. Because I would say the bunker's definitely, if not scary, at least thrilling, intense experience.
Yeah, just to clarify, I just looked it up just real quick. It's actually the Fort Vaux. Fort de Vaux is like the Battlefield 1 map, but Fort Vaux is actually the actual place they held out, that the French held out in during the Battle of Verdun. So has some. It's not just like a World War One setting that doesn't exist. It's like a real place, which is
Yeah,
it's really cool. But yeah,
it's true.
I mean, yeah, get Baldur's Gate 3 if you like it. Jared does. I'm excited for Starfield and other games that we're going to talk about probably in the next episode, like Payday 3, for example. And, if you're into horror, if you're looking to get into horror, if you want something to just like, for you to just like waste time on or just burn just daylight with, try out something scary. Try out the new Amnesia the Bunker. This has been the latest episode of the Wonders podcast. I am retro _loneliness. Nick, you could catch all my stuff on the link tree below. I Twitch stream. And Jared?
And yeah, likewise. Once again, I produce audiobooks and run a YouTube channel called Midnight Lab.
We'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Goodbye.